even at that time, computers were not the thing.
Yeah,
You midied everything up, right?
I think that for the computer stuff, it wasn't until like 2001, I think around 2002, when like Pro Tools, because they had computer stuff before, but it wasn't. I can record audio on this thing.
It wasn't
It
accessible
was.
either to us.
It was but it was a MIDI type thing where
Yeah.
I can use the computer to control the keyboard and the drum machine, but I still had to dump it down into something else. And the computer was basically useless. It was just a box as a MIDI controller.
Right.
And you couldn't really do much to it. But it wasn't until I think around 2001 where Pro Tools, they had I'll never forget this. I was in New York and I was hanging out with my brother-in-law, and I can't remember what store it was. They had Pro Tools had they had a session where they're gonna show people what Pro Tools was gonna do, and they had it set up on the computers. I can't remember what store it was.
Probably
but my
Sam
brother and I
Ash. They did a lot of stuff like that. Sam Ash or Rock and Soul or something like that.
It
Crazy
could be
Eddie?
Sam Ash. No. It was somewhere in Manhattan, but I think
Okay.
it might be Sam Ash. But I have to ask my brother-in-law. When I'm done with this, I'm gonna ask it. But like, we went down to this thing to go watch this presentation from Pro Tools about what they plan to do and how this thing works. And everybody's mind was just like, they couldn't believe it. Because before that, we were recording all this stuff on ADATs and 2-inch reels.
Oh my goodness.
And so like, you're like, what? I could do something on the computer and I can use it again. I don't have to I don't have to buy this $400 reel to use it one time and never. I gotta put this away somewhere in cold storage. Like that opened the door for a lot of people, because I didn't really start using computers to produce music for at least a couple of years after that. But like, I knew it was possible. I just couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And so you had to get to the point where like, okay, I can get a computer that's strong enough, a hard drive big enough, and then I gotta I have to pay for the software, because it wasn't like the old days, or like just fairly recently. If you wanted to get pirated software, it's fairly easy to get.
Yeah,
if you knew where to look,
something like that. Yeah.
yeah. If you knew where to look, you could get it. Back in the day, there was no pirated software. You had to pay whatever $1,000 for the software, and it cost a grip for the software. It cost a grip for the computer.
Yeah.
For the keyboard, everything was expensive. So it was a thorough investment that you had to make. And so that's why I say, like, you had to be around like-minded people, because everybody else was like, this is a waste of money. What are you doing? Like, you could have bought a car. You could have bought some clothes. Like, you could have bought but I need the vinyl though. You can make sense to people who they're not creative like that. Because if you're a painter and you're like, well, I need to buy this expensive canvas, and even though I'm only going to use it once, it's worth it to me. Somebody who's not a painter is not going to make sense of that, or how much paint costs, or the type of brushes that you need, or whatever. Like, somebody who's not in that world, they can't understand it. And the same thing for music production and for DJing. If you're not part of that world, it doesn't make sense to you that anybody would spend all of this money on a record player just for one. And you got to spend it again for the other one.
Right. And even then there was like a hierarchy of like information when it came to like, just knowing stuff, because even if you said, hey, even if you said, hey, I'm going to get this computer, I'm going to get this rig, right? You still needed sort of a PCI card to run inside of your computer. No one really ran stuff off of like, Macs. It was all PCs, right?
Yeah,
so you needed a PCI card, and then you needed a PCI MIDI card, and then you needed all this stuff, right? Exactly, a PCI. So, I mean, at the point where I was like doing crazy producing, I was still doing MIDI. I mean, I had a 2x2, running all my MIDI. And even then, I did not have a drum machine. And then I was like, I need a drum machine.